Debate will be moderated by Archie Jackson, Senior Director, Head IT and Security in Sedo Inc. I'd like to quickly introduce Mr. Jackson to you all. Well, he's a visionary senior technology professional with over 20 years of experience and determined to deliver value to their customers and businesses through lean and design thinking. He is focused towards digital transformation and is equally passionate towards cybersecurity and privacy, and is also capable to design competent and secure architectures. The panelist for this debate will be Dr. Erdal Ozkaya, Chief Cybersecurity Strategist, CISO, Microsoft RD and MVP. Vukosi Sambo, Head of Data Solutions, Medscheme, AfroCentric Group. Mohammed Abdul Kalam Azad, Head of Information Security and Compliance, Eastern Bank Limited, and Alexandre Blanc, VCISO, VARS Corporation. I would like to request our moderator, Mr. Jackson, to kindly take it over from here.
Thank you so much, Pragya, and great to see. I'm really delighted with this panel to start with, and I myself am a great follower of all these panelists over social media. All those who are attending today, if you're not following them, please do follow them. You'll get a lot of insights, details, and there's also a newsletter that Alexandre publishes often, and that's really helpful. Great insights around those. And so really delighted to host this panel today, and the topic is orchestrated security or best of breed security. In fact, it could even ignite an interesting debate between this group and the audience because it may have various different views from different mindset. I'll quickly start through with a generic question as before I start on the core agenda of this session. Which is around the priorities of the CISOs. So from the current trend of generation 5 of attacks, which are quite those are 0 days and those are programmed, and the attack vector is at a very complex level. So identification of detection as well as prevention is definitely require a lot of complex processes, a lot of tool sets, compliances, architecture. So from that particular aspect, as a CISO, what should be the 3 top priorities in today's transformational focus of the security architecture? And this would be a question across the board. So I'll move on in the alphabetical order. Alexandre, your views, please.
Hello, thank you for asking. So, the basics, basically, I'm a fan of the basics in security, despite of the technology or the implementation. So we cover people, process, and technology. So these are, to me, the pillar that we want to address. And any technology that we put together is just a mean to an end. We need to achieve security control, and it's about risk management. So we need to place mitigation, reduce the risk, the impact, and the risk of a threat. So that will be the base. And then anything we put is just about proper architecture around the security posture of the organization. So that will be my take on this one.
Thank you. That was crisp and precise. Thank you. Dr. Erdal?
To add what Alex said, of course, we have to, he mentioned important points. My priority is ensuring also, besides, I agree with what he said, to create a cybersecurity culture. So I have to ensure my colleagues understand the cyber risk so they can help me to minimize and mitigate the risk based on what Alex said, compatible with my risk management structure. People process, remember, PPT. Besides that, I have to ensure also that I am aware of what's happening. So creating a cybersecurity strategy, which again aligns with what Alex said. And I should know from the beginning that cybersecurity strategy should be secure as necessary. And finally, after all this, I have to ensure I have a proper backup structure. So I know I'm going to hack one day. Doesn't matter what technology I use, what I do. Maybe it's going to be an insider. Maybe it's going to be someone else. Maybe it's just going to be, a tornado is going to hit us. But as long as I am prepared for this, I think we are in a much better state. This will be my top 3 priority.
Thank you, Dr. Erdal. In fact, very important point around backup. Yes, so by any means, today, tomorrow, we might get hacked or compromised. So there should always be a reversal plan. Thank you. Abdul, what are your views, top 3 priorities in the current evolving threats landscape around generation 5 of attacks? You're on mute, sorry.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you. It was a really critical thing to prioritize. Yeah, am I audible right now?
Yes, you're loud and clear.
You are.
Yeah. First priority is that to protect the asset, like for which organization CISO is working. This main priority is to protect that organization's asset in terms of its reputation, insights, in terms of financial insight of other competition, all these things. Then we have to give another priority to our human resource, because organizational main asset is it is part of also asset, human resource, and we need to give emphasis on the human resource such that they can work safely, they are not embarrassed, they don't get hacked, or they don't get any wrong thing from the outsider. That's the second priority. And finally, to do something for the society, for the bigger aspect. As a professional, we have some corporate responsibility, social responsibility to our society and to give back to the society. So if I summarize this thing, first priority should be to protect the organization asset, and as well as our human resource, and finally to give back to the society.
Excellent. Thanks, Abdul. Finally, I guess Vukosi dropped off. I can see him. I guess he might be having some issues connecting. However, yes, right points around giving back to society, around the kind of vertical that Abdul talked about. It could be the kind of businesses the organizations are into. It could be healthcare, financial sector. Vukosi is back. So your inputs around the 3 priorities in the current evolving threat landscape, Vukosi.
Thanks, Achi, and apologies about that. So I think the gentlemen have summarized it quite well to say when all is said and done, the basics of people, process, and technology remains at the core of how you need to really approach this. I do, however, need to highlight that obviously one of the key dynamics of post-COVID world for most enterprises is that we are dealing with increasing volume of threats and shrinking budgets. So how we then obviously start balancing that without compromising security from a business perspective, if you were to put a business hat on, will also become one of the increasing challenges that any data or security professional or leader will have to deal with going forward. So I know we're going to go further into discussing which of the options then tend to optimize or create a healthy balance to make sure that we obviously achieve our security objectives while obviously meeting our business objectives as part of the discussion. But yes.
Thank you. Another insight, important point, Vukosi. Thank you. So to summarize for the takeaways around the first point, which is around the priorities for CISO, some of the common one is PPT, which is people, process, technology, focusing around all these aspects. Second is, which I could gather, is around the architecture, looking at the architecture where security embeds by design across different segments. It could be a complete framework, portfolio. So how well it encapsulates into that. Backup, very importantly. So do we have backup as the part of priority, as a complete mitigation in case any impact happens? And so from protection of from the basics perspective, where the organizations may be from financial or healthcare, respective compliances, all of that, plus budgets and all. So coming to the focus agenda, which I hope, and I would request the audience to put in the questions for the panelists. It's quite a important and key topic for all the decision makers from the security aspect. So do put in your questions in the Q&A, and we'll take up the questions toward the end. So from the security framework design and architecture standpoint, a very important point of debate in today's session is about, like, as a security decision maker, should we move ahead, or should we look at the best of breed across multiple solutions, like the endpoints, best of breed for endpoints, cloud, networks, email, collaboration tools that we use, DevOps, application security, mobile, IoT. So should we look at getting all the best of breed and overwhelming the environment with all those best of solutions with all the buzzwords around, so that we are fully compliant and secure? Or should we look at some platform-based security, which would offer a complete gamut of portfolio, which would cover all the key aspects around endpoints, cloud, mobile, everything through an orchestrated security. So from the view standpoint, and definitely let's move on with the debate. Let's ask first Dr. Erdal, what are your views from the orchestrated security or the best of breed?
Vukosi, Alex, do you want a free Ferrari? Come on, it's a debate. Unmute yourself. Yes? I'm going to give you a free Ferrari. Actually, you're not getting any. But you are responsible of with one condition, you have to maintain the car yourself. Happy? Actually, I'll give you one as well. Happy?
Absolutely.
But of course, there's terms of condition. The best car, right? Ferrari, Lamborghini, Bugatti, best cars. But you have to drive this car in a desert. Hold on. Ferrari is the best car. We all agree. But is it designed to run in a desert? So getting the best is not always going to help you. We all need a shoe. Do you go and buy any shoe size because it's cheap? Or you go buy the shoe which fits your feet and your budget? You can buy a Louis Vuitton shoe for $5,000, or you can buy from the corner shop a comfortable shoe for maybe $30. And probably it's more durable as well. I have nothing against the brand that I mentioned, but just an example. So getting the best, what is the best? The best is what helps you to stay secure, not brands. I mean, I work now for a vendor as well. But, before that, when I was at Microsoft, I met some CISOs. They're like, oh, we have 50 security products. I use A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'm like, why? Yes, it's important to use the right GRC, right? Governance is important. Using the right tools is important, because you cannot secure today with yesterday's tools, but it's important to balance it. It's like cybersecurity basics. To make something secure, it has to be functional, also easy to use. I'm pretty sure you all remember this triangle when you first started in cybersecurity. So, in my opinion, getting the best is not the answer. Getting the best which suits you is the best answer. Or, remember I said, yes, here's the car, but if you cannot maintain it, a company should be big enough. Yes, you should go for trustable brands, but when you need, they should be small enough to be able to help you without charging you leg and arm. That's really important. Anybody against it? Let's leave it.
Excellent analogy, Dr. Erdal. In fact, in the same scenario, if so getting a Ferrari and driving that in a desert, so that doesn't suit. What if I have a large family and we at times go on to desert, at times go on to countryside, and then a lot of other different places. So it should be actually a customizable model that should work upon. Yeah, thank you.
That was
Thanks.
just a small, of course, we can change the examples, but you got the point.
Thank you. Thank you. Alexandre, what are your views from the orchestration or the best of breed perspective?
Well, we support the business and we have an achievement, a goal, which is ensuring that the data is protected. We want to achieve CAA, confidentiality, integrity, and viability. So to me, it must match, and it's kind of the same answer. It must match the environment and the need. If you have skilled team and you have enough resources that are used and have the skills to manage multiple solutions, this is fine to have these multiple solutions. Because one of the points I make is that one of the security basic is having overlapping security control. So if you have everything in one brand, to me, it's a risk, because if you have one fail or one vulnerability that is critical in one single solution, then you are fully exposed. So you need to have overlapping security controls. That's one thing. Now, it's also a business approach, like, do you manage that internally? And then, you want a consolidated interface and convenience and you have your workflows, or do you rely on third party and then you can transfer the workload on third party? I work on an MSSP, so that's my point. But we provide managed security solution. That means that we can take best of breed on what matters, achieve overlapping security control and mix technology. So we have redundancy and avoid failure on a single platform. With all the SolarWind breach and stuff, that was an example of having one single control is not enough. You need something to detect if one control is failing. Who's watching the watcher? So that's one thing. So it's a proper balance between organization size, security culture, and what we want to protect. Because we didn't say that, but first of all, we should have an inventory and know what we want to protect, what's the kind of activity, and that will allow us, after a risk assessment, to know what are the options for us to suit and meet the need of data protection and infrastructure protection. So it's not a black and white, true or false situation. It just depends on the organization culture and how it's spread. So to me, yes, it's good to have best of breed and keep innovation, because threat landscape is evolving extremely fast. So we must tackle that and we must be aligned. If we, as has been said before, if you have outdated tools, it's not going to match the need as well. So it's a continuous audit, review, and process review to make sure that we match the threat landscape as well. So not an easy one. I'm afraid that I don't have a magic bullet. It's more like organization culture, team skills, and the way you want to do that, if you want to transfer the risk and responsibilities, and who's actually going to handle that. That would be my point on that.
Alex, you know why you don't have a magic bullet? Because there's not such a thing magic, right? It's all illusion. Just want to
I agree. I agree. And in the illusion, you want, the overlapping security control is like, people don't know what it is. It means that you have many ways to control that something is actually doing what it's doing. So if someone is doing something, you want 2 or 3 other people to watch that. So this is what is overlapping security control, to make sure that everybody is actually controlled. And if you have only one thing that failed and nothing to warn you that that control failed, then you do not reach the goal of protecting your assets and data.
Great insight, Alexandre. Thank you. Abdul, your views from the different landscapes or opportunities that we may have? Abdul, am I?
Sorry, I missed this point. That was I
so
could not hear.
Sure. So Abdul, from the orchestrated security, where we have a single vendor or a minimal number of vendors providing the solutions across different aspects, different frameworks of, let's say, email, let's say, endpoints, cloud, networks, or should it be best of breed? So that's around what kind of approach should we follow from a decision maker's perspective?
Yeah, right. That's a crucial thing to consider. Like, best of breed alone itself a good thing. Like, if you consider to secure particular area, like we are considering protect the phishing email. So in that case, if our target is to protect phishing email, so then we may consider the best of breed solution. So we'll get the best solution for particular issue and we'll do perfectly well. But if we consider the total organizational security in a total, that time best of breed security may not work, because best of breed and always is not the same vendor. So like for email security, there is one vendor, like web security, the other vendor is the best, and like firewall or SIM, another vendor is okay. So in that case, if we select the best of breed solution for organizational security, then we got multiple vendor. In some cases it is good, but moreover, what is the problem? That all the vendor doesn't talk together. Like one signature we are getting at the email, but that signature we may not push into the web security gateway, or we cannot push into that signature that automatically into the SIM or firewall. So then is the drawback. So in that case, best of breed doesn't work perfectly. So if you do the security orchestration, like there is some more than automation, which is exactly orchestration. So if every security device talk each other, so then it's work perfectly. Like if the particular solution for the particular is not the best also, but if we get support from other solution, if we get the timely information from other solution, then that exactly work perfectly. So I like to term one thing, that security orchestration is a teamwork, and it's good for some things. If we have some team member is weak also, then it can cover that with team member and can do the protect the organization. And best of the breed is something what I really like to term as the one-man army. So everyone is work like a one-man army, one-man commando, something, but lack of coordination among them. But that are, although these are best team, but lack of coordination, it can fail also.
Thank you. I mean, quite a deep insight around that, Abul. Thank you. So I'll summarize that towards the end. And Vukosi, what are your views from this specific aspect?
Yep. As I think what is clear, especially even at an enterprise level, is that you need a fit for purpose kind of a solution. There's no silver bullet. There's no magic bullet like Alexander and Dr. Erdal already highlighted. But I do think that when you look at the two different approaches, what is starting to be a bit more apparent is that the organizational maturity is also quite critical, and the kind of organization that you are. Because if you are a highly matured organization from a platform and digital transformation perspective, you may potentially be exposed to faster pace of change and exponential increase in the number of threats. And best of breed might actually be suitable, because then you are able to be more flexible and adaptable and agile in a way to adopting the best technologies that will best serve you as and when new threats are identified, instead of being slow to respond. Because I think what Dr. Erdal also highlighted that is very key is that it is starting to become an issue of when you get hacked instead of more the if. And I think the ability to respond quickly is becoming quite significant as we move forward. And with best of breed, that flexibility and agility to then be able to integrate in your architecture an additional vendor and solution into in that layered architecture can be very useful. But obviously, if you read reports, say, from your security intelligence, they say some of these big organizations have as many as 45 vendors. So is that a good thing or not? You know, does it start becoming inefficient, and does the architecture get too complex, and what are some of the risks that introduces? It can be quite a difficult one to answer. So again, I agree with the rest of the panelists. There is no silver bullet. You need to find fit for purpose based on your organizational needs, the maturity level that you are in, and understanding the pace of change that from a security perspective you are exposed to, and how adaptable you think you are as a security team and as an organization at large before making the call.
Thank you. Thank you, Vukosi.
Vukosi, also a secret message. I don't know if you noticed, right behind him, from Verdi man, which I know he is resting in peace, Nelson Mandela. It's always seems impossible until you do it. And this, I think, fits for this debate, right?
Absolutely.
I love it.
Great catch, Dr. Azad. Yeah, thank you. Well, a very deep insight from all of us. In fact, from where a lot of experiences around combinations of setups and clientele. So the kind of exposures, I mean, from orchestration of security aspect, where there may be solutions in the market which portray. Let's talk a little deeper into it. So let's say from the endpoint security aspect, there are endpoint solutions which comes with EDR and or getting into an MDR perspective, which can be a managed services. And the endpoint detection and response is linked to a threat intel database, a data lake through which they can detect the zero threats and all. So from that perspective, that's the endpoint solution. But overall, I mean, over the period with the evaluation of various different products, what I've seen is that these endpoint solutions, these solution providers have been quite smart in capturing the capabilities, additional capabilities. For example, adding in security from mobile devices. Let's say an endpoint solution coupled with an MDM solution, an endpoint solution coupled with an email security solution, endpoint solution which gets coupled with a gateway solution, a network gateway solution. So this actually brings a challenge to the best of breed solution that I will see. There are some known, and again, from perspective, I mean, that's my own individual perspective, not a summary of this discussion, but from the perspective of mine, it's the best of breed is only until the point it is challenged by another product. So the best of breed remains unless and until it's challenged by another product, because I've seen products being out in the market for a length of time, and then there's a product which is a transformational product which actually adds in great features from let's say CASB. Let's say CASB is a solution which is coupled with a gateway solution. So a lot of security solution providers are now coupling. They're acquiring startups, they're acquiring organizations and bringing solutions into their portfolio. And I've seen architectures which even integrate into a single platform, because as a decision maker, security decision maker is, I mean, the priority is around making the environment secure. But again, getting the buy-in from the business, that buy-in first is, again, from the PPT perspective, people, the organization, the awareness around the importance of those aspects, those tool sets, the compliances, the controls. The second aspect is, how would security enable the performance and productivity of the business? It should not actually hinder or impact the performance of the business. It should, in fact, enhance and throttle that performance. And I've seen, because if we get in a lot of best of breeds, a lot of agents running in, there may be agents in the cloud, agents at the endpoint, agent in the network. Eventually, the business, and as the business performance, the productivity may go down. And again, there's a separate cost coming in out of the security. I mean, because of security, but because it would be out of that particular portfolio, impacting the, let's say, CIO. So in that particular aspect, again, so looking at the holistical view, again, not a silver bullet, but further orchestrated solution with some couples of best of breed will give the optimal benefits to an organization from the overall perspective. And any points anybody wants to make on this summary?
I will jump on this one.
Yeah.
You raised a great point about, not impacting the business and allowing to run, because we often time when security is poorly integrated, it's going to affect the productivity and the employee effectiveness. And you can even see if people can do their job, they might go to another company. So one of the keys is a frictionless integration of the solution. Despite the fact that you look for an orchestrated solution or best of breed, it has to be prepared for integration and the deployment of it as with frictionless. And it has been even biggest challenge lately because everybody work remote. I'm one of the 100% of the time remote worker. So for sure, it comes with challenges when you need to protect this workstation. But it comes with the evolution. There is no more perimeter. So the perimeter is either the devices, as you said, MDM, laptop and stuff, but even more, it could be even data centric, because, you know, we speak also about data leak prevention, because there is something like when we move all our storage to the cloud, and, you know, I criticize the cloud a lot because of the leaks, but thing is, this is data centric now. So the security solution, although it protects the peripheral, the mobile device that require management, we also must focus on the core jewel, on the crown jewel of the organization, which is the data. So we have to be focused on data. And I see a big trend, and I like to see that, which comes with encryption of data to achieve data protection. So I think that the current security control that we have, which are very technical, you know, network protection, deception technology, filters and stuff, will be embracing the confidentiality protection through encryption, both to defend against external threats, the usual threat actor, virus, hackers and stuff, but bad guys, I mean, and also the insider threat in the cloud and third-party organization. Because if you have the cloud provider now, and you know, and they grow like the big five, and they take more and more market. And when you think about that, these organizations are they have like a presence in almost every vertical. So they are your challenger. If you are a software developer, they do software development. If you sell goods, they sell goods too. So, you know, it becomes critical from a security and organization protection to defend against your challenger, because, you know, is it common sense to put all your intelligence and R&D in your direct challenger? No, because they should not be able to read that. So this is a straight evolution. It's coming quickly. I think in the coming 2-3 years, we're going to see a lot of security through encryption, which is going to be data centric. Right now, we have DLP solution, data leak prevention, that works both on the device. It's you know, coupled and integrated with the XDR that allow you detection of the leak and data coming out of the device. If someone plug an USB drive and copy a file, you should be aware of that because you want to know where the data is coming. And same thing with the cloud integration. But moreover, the cloud provider should not have the technical ability to read your data. So that's a change. Right now, we rely on term and condition on the security side. You know, and we can have orchestrated security, best of breed security. But if we do not achieve the data protection, then it means nothing in the end, because we fail. So it's a complex equation in the permanent evolution. So I think integration is key. We will need specialized provider to support the mission of the business, because our work, I mean, business work, when you sell food or goods, you don't want to think, you know, your core business, you're not spending endless hours and huge team on the security side of things as well. This is why, you know, they end up with orchestrated security. But I think we need more. We need integrated security and focus on data protection. It's not yet there. It's getting there. So that's a big evolution. I just wanted to highlight that part.
Excellent highlight, Alexandre. In fact, data security, in fact, and the integration should be frictionless. So that's a very, very insightful point, because we might get best of breed, and then getting all together into, let's say, SIEM, or let's say into monitoring, or into any aspect, if that that brings in friction, the eventual outcome is missed out. Sorry. So now, one of the points that you mentioned, Alexandra, was around the data leak prevention. So quite an interesting aspect. So let me trigger into this as a conversation. From a data leak perspective, let's say there are best of breed endpoint data leak solutions. And the organization may have classification of data, so what they need to protect, they are aware of. And they have a solution of, I would say, the best of breed data leakage prevention solution for the endpoints. However, from the application security perspective, or let's say from the applications perspective, cloud perspective, or the network perspective, the strength is not, it's not equally spread across the environment. So which means eventually, if I want to leak the data as an insider threat, I may not choose to leak data from the endpoint because it's having a strong endpoint security from the data leakage perspective, but collaboration tools. So it might not be having that application security, and I may just simply move the data via the collaboration tool, or the social media, or the web gateways, or other aspects. So how do we actually mitigate such solutions? I mean, what exactly should be the food for thought around looking at a particular problem or particular situation around even data leakage prevention, or let's say cloud security or application-based security? What should be the food for thought around as a message for all the decision makers? What should be their approach around? Yeah, Dr. Erdal.
Honestly, I disagree with you.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. You're talking all product-centric. Look, I can mention you 5 cybersecurity companies or 5 cloud vendors, security vendors, where just this year in 2021 they were hacked and they're selling these products.
Yeah.
So 2 options: either they are not using their own product, or product centric is wrong. I hope it's the first option, but it's still a worry to me. All right. So second thing, which it's a debate. I'm debating. Of course, actually, we know each other for a while. Second thing, I hate the word best. Best based on who? Based on what? Alex, remember you mentioned black and white? I'm pretty sure you know the Asian, I forgot the yin-yang philosophy. Every good has a bad inside. Every bad can have a good inside as well. So that's why we should build a strategy. Look, there is 3 cybersecurity posture. You're either going to allow everything, deny the bad. It's impossible to do, right? Or you're going to allow everything, deny the rest. It is not practical. So all what you can do is you're going to allow the good, so you know what is good, and you have to allow rest with a condition, and the condition, of course, is going to be the attack surface reduction. You said EDR. There are lots of organizations charging leg and arm for it. Go to openedr.com. Just since today, they released their paper this week, not today, and they're talking about. Okay, I work for Komodo, but they're talking about Komodo EDR, totally free. You don't have to pay a single cent. This is the best. If you compare, if you ask this a Microsoft person, probably they're going to say no. If you ask CrowdStrike, probably they're going to say no. If you ask Komodo, I'm going to say yes. But don't ask. Put your hands on it, test it, look at the results. More importantly, ensure it fits your organization. You don't believe me? Let's go back to the beginning. All these companies that I'm mentioning, they had data leakages. And they sell DLPs. They had, and honestly, I'm proud of it to say, FireEye, for example, they had one of the most sophisticated attacks. And I'm not making fun of it. Respect them, because they handled it really well. What they said is, they worked together with Microsoft and they found the root cause. What was the root cause? I don't know if you remember. It was sophisticated, but the very root cause was, unfortunately, I have to tell the company name because it's in with the password. Solvents123 was the password. And the ex-CEO, I'm not talking about manager, CEO of Solvents blamed an intern. We are business enablers. This guy is a businessman. I really don't wonder. I wonder how did they hire him as a CEO? Yes, he might be a great businessman, but if you blame an intern, you are not supposed to be in this role anyway. Anyway, this is the truth. If you go to the media, they're never ever going to talk about it. But enterprise IT world is different because they let us talk about it. All right, this was just for my friend a joke, but I hope you get the point, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, Dr. Erdal. Always interesting and great to get your point of view. Thank you. Vukosi, Abdul, from that particular aspect, not only specific to, let's say, DLP, there are frameworks. Nowadays, there are buzzwords around SASE and zero trust. And looking at, again, most of the security decision makers get influenced with such buzzwords. If they are actually ahead in that particular race, I'm terming the word race because it's actually kind of a FOMO, failure of missing out. In the particular evolution might be like if my organization, is it actually completely protected with that zero trust or particular kind of a architecture. So what exactly, I mean, what should be the strategy around such approach? Vukosi, Abdul, any of you?
I'll go first. I think for me, one of the other key point that we have been highlighted that I think, does play a key role as we move forward. And I mean, coming from a data background on my side, is the role of automation in helping get much better at detecting some of these threats and being able to integrate those with your intrusion detection systems. So I think that with all of this, for me, it boils down to the point that I mentioned earlier to say, if we design in such a way that we are able to get smarter at being able to respond quicker, detect faster and respond quicker, then I think we are in a much better position than obsessing too much about trying to prevent.
Excellent point.
I think as important as prevention is, I think we can only go so far. So and I think there's also a role of the elevated permission issues in how you then manage that flexibility, to the point that you asked earlier on and Alexander spoke to, around how do you go about it without eventually stifling organizational flexibility and your people wanting to really work out. So since Dr. Erdal is in a mood for analogies, I always think about it in the form of a security estate. You may stay in the most secure estate, and the most important thing is once we have authenticated you and you are within the estate, the most important thing is you to be able to freely move around and be able to get to your house in the most quickest and optimal way, because we've got confidence in our permission level that we have allowed the right person in, and we've got right checks real time, or be it cameras within the estate that continually monitor activity that is happening. But being able to do that without necessarily stifling my freedom of movement and sense of security is the critical point in what we need to be trying to achieve here.
Thanks. Again, great insight, Vukosi. Again, so if I look at again from the perspective around SASE and zero trust, these great buzzwords, and every other year we do come up with new trends and some buzzwords which we get FOMO of. And I mean, currently SASE and zero trust are something which are actually taking up the market. And from SASE perspective, again, from what I see, these are more aligned with the organization, the kind of organization, the business of an organization they are serving for. It may be a kind of an environment which doesn't actually require SASE because everything is all on premise, and we may not need that level of integrity or solutions around it. But overall, yes, I would not say that these evolutions are not exceptionally good. They are. But again, from zero trust and SASE's perspective, Abul, what are your views?
Right. Although they are very buzzword and commonly used nowadays, yeah, conceptually it's a very good, but implementation is really difficult. What we say, zero trust. But what is actually conceptually, if you go to the NIST definition and other definition, cybersecurity. And nowadays we are facing that when we get some product demo or demonstration and product catalog, we found that they focus on zero trust, SASE, all these things. But actual zero trust, how we can preventing this thing, how can we are implementing the zero trust control is really difficult thing. But then we actually don't find that much implementation has been done so far, and that was the main challenge. But conceptually, again, it's a fantastic idea, and to protect the asset is really important thing to implement. And if we can implement the real zero trust, we can protect our asset. But whatever product, whatever control we are find in the name of SASE or zero trust, really not at that much. That is my observation. But maybe something personal. But maybe some product have very good implementation. But still now I didn't find so such.
Beautiful, Abdul. Thanks for that. In fact, now I'll converge into the agenda again with the same thoughts. Let's talk about zero trust as the implementation strategy for a decision maker. But now let's say if a security decision maker needs to move ahead in a zero trust architectural approach, what would be the best approach? Should he look across different solutions which would cater the architecture in a zero trust manner, or should he look at he or she look at something which would be more of a minimal solution providers and then expanding the portfolio into the framework? Again, an open question to all.
I can jump on that.
Sure, thank you.
You did
So,
already.
okay. Zero trust, it's a nice implementation, and I agree with what has been said before. And it means that you can have control plane and data plane. So it means that zero trust say that anything that want to access the data must pass the security control. So that's the conceptual thing. I work on NIST, with NIST on that definition, so I know pretty much how it is. Now, when it comes to the implementation, it's quite challenging because your current architecture of the infrastructure much allow this kind of approach. And the closest thing that we, that touch the zero trust is called micro-segmentation. So basically having clusters of assets or data that need to be protected and implemented. It's an illusion to believe that your organization can switch to zero trust on the whole scope of the organization in one shot. It has to be scoped and evolved properly as per assets and being centric on that. So basically, having the best practice in place, proper governance and proper data classification. And around this, then you're going to define areas, data-centric, that require the security control of zero trust access. There are many solutions in the market, like we see zero trust network access. So they do apply zero trust control on the network access only. But then you get the data-centric approach as well. So right now, there is no unified solution of zero trust. There are the requirement of zero trust that are implemented in some solution, which is good. It's going to help business, but it has to be prioritized as when you do a compliance assessment, like for ISO 27001, you need to scope your goal and focus on what you want to achieve before running into that. So we see, as you said, a buzzword about zero trust. Everybody is selling zero trust. SASE claiming to be zero trust. Zero trust company claim to be zero trust themselves. So thing is, we must focus on the business need and what we want to achieve. So I think zero trust is going to be good to achieve the data-centric protection. And it's going to go along with other solutions, and it's constant evolution of things. So it's not a magic bullet, and it comes with a lot of challenges, especially when we have a lot of legacy operation. I mean, old servers, all kind of data, unsorted data, and all systems that require to remain online and that cannot actually be integrated properly with that. So it's an illusion to believe that from now to tomorrow, we will end up with zero trust implementation. And also we must know where we place that stuff, what we protect. Because if we don't know the whole attack surface, I think Dr. Erdal spoke about that. If you don't know your attack surface and you implement zero trust on one thing that you have in sight, but you forget something else, it's useless. So governance, inventory, assessment first. So basically you need a very high cybersecurity maturity model in your organization before jumping on that. If you don't have the proper practice in place, you will not make it. So yes, it's a long run. I'm sadly going to say that there is no magical product, best of breed product that will bring you to zero trust like tomorrow. You must do things right, and there is no shortcut on that. Voila.
I want to add again, perfect, just the top. The cherry in the top. Zero trust, yes, good. But first of all, impossible to move completely. I say impossible. Unfortunately, even Nelson Mandela will agree with me. I just saw now. Impossible unless you create it from a green zone. But what possible with, for me, one thing is important. As long as your legacy applications cannot work with your zero trust, because as Alex said, micro-segmentation. Who's going to create it? Who's going to access? what application is going to be used, where is going to be accessed, why is going to be accessed, how is the packet going to transfer. If you cannot answer those questions, then what are you going to do with zero trust? Yes, zero trust with zero usability. But what you can do is segmentation, get your most important and not legacy dependent applications, resources away, and try to secure them. Yes, this is possible. Again, he explained it very well. I just wanted to add that little corner as addition. Because you were saying something, sorry, I jumped in.
Yeah.
I wanted to highlight a similar point to say the role of integration in helping you understand even in general your transaction flow that gives you a good understanding of what your protect surface really looks like, is what actually is a defining point of where you are at in terms of your ability to implement zero trust, in my view. So I think it boils down to that architecture and how you have defined your protect surface and understanding of the transaction flow and the integration points. And especially in the context of the legacy system, it can be very, very difficult and near impossible. I know you are probably reading what's behind me, so I don't want to say it's impossible. So I actually also wanted to.
Excellent. Thanks, Vukosi. Thanks, Dr. Erdal. We are at the last leg of final 5 minutes. Before I take the questions, I would like to close up with a final important question around that would converge the complete discussion. We have observed a lot of, the focus of the cybercrime being converged towards the supply chain. There has been SolarWinds, the CISA, and all of those, when focusing onto the tool set that actually are meant to defend or monitor the environment. So through that, getting into the environment and then getting, one arrow shoots many. So that's kind of a approach. So with that, having multiple solutions in an environment versus less number of solutions, again, both ways have pros and cons. I would say if I'm having minimal number of solutions, I'm more prone to subjection of those attacks in case if those gets attacked. Or if I have multiple, I may have a possibility, again, more combinations, possibilities of getting attacked in the number of attacks being held outside. But again, so from in the overall such situation, what is your view? Anyone from the panel can take this up. What is your view from such particular mitigation? What should be the best way to mitigate such architecture?
If no one jump, I'll quickly jump on this one.
Sure.
And I'll let the other answer, but, we fall back to the basic of cybersecurity that exists for 20 years, layered security, overlapping security control. Never mind what you take, you must make sure that your controls are in place and they are audited, they are verified. Because it's like backups. If you take backups, but you don't test them, they are not backups, they are just a bet. So this is the same thing for security. If you place a security solution, but there is nothing that watches the security, this is not working. And that concept of layered security is pretty old. So just the new evolving technology, again, it's just a mean to an end, and the basics are still there. So we must make sure that the solution we take from a security architecture for the organization just follow the basic principle. If we do that, it has to be convenient, it has to be frictionless, it has to match the skills of the organization, but it doesn't matter, you must achieve the goal. And now you do it yourself as the organization, or you use an MSSP to do it for you. This is the risk transfer part, but you make sure that they apply the basic principles, then you should be good to go. So that would be my take on that. Very simple.
Thank you. Excellent. You're spot on. Thank you. Thank you, Alexandra. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Erdal. Final with a question. There are many questions. I'll choose one, and because we're at the final minute. So there's one point which says, one question that says, how easy or difficult is it from implementation of SASE solutions, and what kind of timelines should a decision maker focus on? Quite a thorough question.
All right, it's easy for me. Hard to someone else. I'm not saying, it could be, it all depends. Again, it's not about how easy it is. Implementation, you can get help maybe. Usually when the vendors are selling it, they're keen to help, but more importantly, usability. Is it usable? Is it doing the job? You have to look at those aspects. Of course, implementation is also important, but I know many easy implementation solutions with one click, but the management is a nightmare. So again, it's like a balance that we have to keep true. And this applies in everything. Abdul gave great examples. Because he gave great examples. Alex didn't give, no, just joking. Alex gave some great examples. You or she try to, it all depends where you stand, how you look, and what you want to achieve. Will be my answer.
Thank you, Dr. Erdal. And with that, we are actually on time, and a great discussion. I would have taken up more time, but yes, we
can
have
hack
to.
them if you want to. Oh no, there's one hacking session coming right now. Sorry.
Yeah.
You don't in cybersecurity. There's gonna be always better someone than you. That's why you should not debate.
Absolutely.
And plus, Praga is there. I prefer to listen to her. Go away, actually.
Absolutely. Many thanks to all the panelists. It has been a great discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to all our panelists who gave us, such vital information and discussed the problem and the solution and everything to the core. I think this was a very, very helpful session for everybody. And thank you, Archie, for coordinating everything in such a perfect manner. Thank you, everybody, once again.